Learn the most advanced recruiting techniques. Land the most desirable talent. Launch your company towards massive success. This is the Higher Power Radio Show with Rick Girard.
The remote workforce has proven to be challenging for a lot of companies who have traditionally run operations from a centralized location. Aside from the technical issues, i.e. security and connectivity, productivity, engagement, and mental health become more difficult to manage. So today we're going to take a dive into how we can utilize policies, tools, and data to create a more engaged remote workplace. I'm Rick Girard, and welcome to the Higher Power Radio Show. We help entrepreneurs and hiring managers avoid costly hiring mistakes by identifying a specific problem and providing proven solutions to enable your company to win the right hire. We share insights from top performing rebel entrepreneurs, disruptors, and industry experts like our guest today, Shiran Yaroslavsky. She is the co-founder and CEO of Cassiopeia Tech. Cassiopeia Tech is a startup that empowers managers that lead fully or partially remote teams to maximize workplace experience. Their solution delivers actionable insights to boost team collaboration, belonging, and mental health by analyzing communication patterns, not content, within and among teams. Shiran is also an expert in all things related to data-driven products and people analytics, and was featured in Forbes 2019 30 Under 30 list, which is what makes Shiran the perfect expert for today's topic. Shiran, welcome to the Higher Power Radio Show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Absolutely. I'm happy to have you. I'm excited to share this content with our audience. So today we're going to be discussing the problems of managing a remote workforce and providing some directions on how to fix it. Sound good to you?
Yeah, amazing.
Perfect. Let's do it. So I'm going to plug into your expertise here. What are the challenges that companies are facing today?
According to our data, 77% of managers feel it's harder for them to manage their team remotely. And there is a good reason why they feel that way, because remote work just creates a new set of challenges and difficulties. So managers don't have the visibility they used to have while working in the office. They don't see people interacting, engaging in the hallways. They don't have this water cooler talk, small chats, grabbing coffee together, and also creating a sense of belonging becomes more difficult. So more than a third of employees actually indicate that their sense of belonging was affected due to the shift to remote work. So there's new needs that employees need. There's new needs for managers that also are leading remote teams. So what we see is that employees needs more empathy these days because of the fear and uncertainty. Employees would like their managers to be more empathetic to their challenges at home and improve their work experience. Also, employees need their managers to lead with more open approach and transparency, be more sensitive to their needs and how the team interact.
You know what, going back to what you said, which was the sense of belonging thing, we're tribal and social beings, right? So we need to be around other people. And there's been a lot of talk of this is the new norm. I cannot stand working from home personally. It drives me nuts. And I need to be around people to give and feed off the energy, right? So do you see this really being the new norm? Do you really see this as being what we're going to have to deal with moving forward?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I can also mention that GitLab just published a remote work report. And according to their data, 86% of respondents believe remote work is the future. And I'm talking a lot with executives and also with the HR experts here in the States. And it's something that it's very clear, I think, for all of them is that also after the COVID-19 outbreak will be over, the new normal will be here, still remote work will be much more popular. The new generation also want this kind of flexibility and the advantages of remote work. So I definitely believe that remote work is here to stay.
Well, I agree. And you know what? What's interesting is it also opens up the ability to work while you're traveling. So, I mean, you can go on a vacation or hopefully they get satellite communications, going to go work from a boat somewhere in the middle of the Pacific and still get work done, right?
Yeah, that could be amazing.
That's the only thing that's really got me excited. All right. So why is this important? Why is it important that we become more empathetic?
So as you mentioned, remote work is here to stay. And what's happening is that managers just need to constantly assess the team pulse these days. The world is just changing really fast. Also, as a startup and company, there's also new challenges all the time. There's new atmosphere, new problems to solve. And managers just need to have this ability to assess their team pulse and what they need and to be very responsive responsive to the team needs. And in order to do that, managers just need to have new skills and tools that will help them to adapt to the new environment.
So this is a great opportunity for managers to really develop their people skills to a much stronger level, because you're trying to assess people or have conversations with people via video conference as opposed to over coffee.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So that's going to require that we as managers look at things from a different lens. We're going to have to evolve. You cannot be the same manager that you were.
Definitely. I can share that recently I interviewed Amy Capolanti-Wolf, the former SVP of Team and Tech. She and I talked a lot about the new leader and how it looks like. Today, the new leader is more about empathy. It's still about driving for results, but in a more collaborative way, much more listening and a lot more guiding rather than directing. The new leader also needs to be more flexible and innovative to adapt the new challenges that I mentioned, as the world is just changing very fast.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. All right, you're listening to the Higher Power Radio Show. I'm your host, Rick Girard. And for our podcast listeners, we're going to take a quick educational moment from our sponsors. Our guest today is Shiran Yaroslavsky. She's the co-founder and CEO of Cassiopeia Tech, and we're discussing remote workforce management. So how you can get the most out of your leadership team and your employees during this new norm. What needs to happen for a company to be successful running a remote workforce? So what would be the three main areas in which companies really need to be aware of that they can focus on? And then let's break down those areas into each component of those a little bit deeper into what they need to do in those areas.
Sure. Definitely how I see it is that there are three main domains that companies should adjust in order to be successful in managing remote teams. The first one is just to establish remote work policies and culture that are suitable for remote work. This is the first one. The second one, which we also mentioned before, is training. This is the second. And lastly is the tools. The tools that managers need these days to be more successful in leading both partially or fully remote teams. And I can deep dive on each and every one of them. So the first one is establish remote work policies and culture that are suitable for remote work. And there are three things we need to pay attention to. The first one is rules. So we need to establish new rules for gaining clarity while we work. So questions like, will we pay people for overtime if they work off hours? Or how do we manage security and passwords? So all these small stuff, but we need them in order to keep clarity.
And those need to be written down, right?
Definitely. You need to write it down. You need it to be very accessible and very clear where to find these kind of rules for all employees. The second one is norms. When do we email, text, or message people? Are cameras always on for online meetings? How do we run or manage meetings these days from remote? So this is the second one. And lastly, just designing our broader company DNA. So how do we communicate when we aren't satisfied with something? How can we stay connected while working remotely? This one is really important. So basically, we are just establishing the right culture that will help us to foster trust in our company.
Okay. With those norms and designing your company DNA, are there challenges specific in those areas that companies should make sure that you're covering these things?
Sure. There's a lot of checklists and guides that also please reach out to me and I can share.
Okay.
And there's a lot of things that are related to communication and how we engage within the company, but feel free to reach out and I would love to share it with you.
Okay. The important thing is it's got to be congruent with what your company is.
Yeah.
Your DNA of your company and how you run it. What would be the next part?
The next part is training. And as you mentioned, the new leader need to have these new leadership skills. And there is a great training that we can help managers to gain these kind of skills and knowledge that they need to lead remote teams. And lastly, the last part is the tools.
Before we get into tools really quickly, I do want to talk about training. How does a manager learn empathy?
We can talk about it in a completely separate episode for this podcast. But I think there is a lot of just exposing to new kind of way of thinking about things and how to be aware, to know how to ask the right questions and to be a better listener for your employee, to be very responsive to their needs. It's a challenge, that's for sure.
Yeah, because I'm wondering, okay, so if I'm a manager in an organization and I really want to get better, I should figure out how to learn how to listen and recognize things within my people. Because a lot of times, especially if you're a command and control manager, right? Empathy isn't really part of your DNA and how you manage. So you're going to have to make some major changes in order to do that.
For sure.
So how do I learn that?
Well, there's also different tools and skills and practice that you can have in order to improve. Like everything, it's a muscle. You can train it and become better at it. I think what's important here is that managers need to know and be aware how important it is to keep training this muscle and become better.
Yeah, practice listening. It's just like anything. You need practice in order to get good at it.
Exactly.
All right, so let's talk about tools. So working remotely has challenges. We've all talked about Zoom, which is a communications tool, but what kind of tools would I need to put in place that would help me as a manager do a better job?
So this part is really important. Working remotely is not just working from the office only with Zoom. So working remotely creates new challenges for leaders. So as I mentioned at the beginning, 77% of managers indicate it's harder for them to manage their remote teams. There is a workplace experience gap that technology can help in closing. So the first kind of category of tools is team insights tools. So it's more challenging to use surveys or feedback tools these days because employees are busy and insecure, while as a manager, you need a fast, real-time insights to act on. So communication shifted to online. People analytics can empower remote managers and just better leading remote teams. And I can share from our experience at Cassiopeia, we analyze communication patterns to provide actionable insights to improve collaboration, belonging, and mental health. And the kind of insights we provide to managers is how to improve the work experience for all their employees and how to address their needs. So for example, I can share that also adding alerts regarding when meeting time increase in order to help managers to better balance the work for their employees. Or we are providing also insights about new employees experience, which is really challenging these days to onboard new employees. So we help them to really create the best onboarding experience for them, also remotely. So this is the first part and type of tools that we need to have. The second you already mentioned is communication platform, so Zoom, Slack, etc. And then the last one is collaboration tools. So what kind of tools we need to share documents, thoughts, goals within the team?
We're looking at Google Suite or Outlook or Exchange or what have you, like anything that basically is a document collaboration platform.
Exactly.
Do you look at the tools in the hiring process? I mean, your employee experience starts at the interview process. So is this something you would carry through from the interview all the way through to onboarding and the tenure of the employee at the organization?
So I think definitely we should be very minded about the employee's experience, even from the hiring stage. Definitely we should communicate our culture, how we engage in the company, definitely just from the start. And then while we're onboarding, as we mentioned, we need to be aware it's harder to onboard people while working remotely and how we can really get the insights we need to improve this process. So yeah, I believe we should take into consideration all we mentioned here just from the start.
Would you mind sharing the tools that you guys use for keeping your employees engaged? I mean, obviously you use Cassiopeia, right? But I mean, like from a communication standpoint, you're a startup and you've got employees and you guys all work remote, right?
Yeah.
And this is really valuable for a lot of our audience because most of them are entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I feel it's different tools for different stages, different needs. We're definitely using our technology, but also we love using Zoom, we love Slack. We use Trello, although I used Jira in the past, and I think it's a great tool as well. So I think whatever you need to also map your needs and your manager's needs in order to pick the right tools for you.
What is the Team Insight tool that you're using? Is that Cassiopeia?
Yeah, we do use our platform and we learn a lot of it from it. Highly recommend it.
Is there one that you use specifically to get surveys, to get feedback from your employees?
Yeah, we also have our own survey engine that we use, but there's great tools out there. I feel that Culture SurveyMonkey, there is great options for surveys, definitely.
All right, cool. Well, we're just about getting close on time here. What would be 2 or 3 key takeaways that you could give the audience so they can plug it into their business today?
So I think the first key takeaway is to be aware of the workplace experience gap that I mentioned today, created by the shift to remote work. The second second key takeaway is to design the right policies and company culture to allow your company to prosper while working remotely. And lastly, use the right tools to boost your team collaboration, communication, and employee experience.
You can't just wing it, guys. It's really important that you have some structure in place. All right. Well, shoot. Shiran, thanks so much for your time investment today. And I want to welcome you to the Higher Power Radio community. What would be the best way in which members of our community could reach you?
I'm very responsive on LinkedIn, so feel free to reach out. Just look for Shiran Yaroslavsky or write me an email to shiran@cassiopeia.tech.
All right, perfect. And we'll have that linked in the show notes. I want to thank our listening audience for tuning in to this week's episode of Higher Power. A quick thanks to our team, our engineer Christopher Decker, our producers Andrea Ballin, Ariel Kramer, and Ayla Gerard. A big thanks also to our sponsor, Criteria Corp. If you're listening to the podcast, please subscribe, review, and share. We're listening, and we welcome your feedback after all this show's for you. You can join the Higher Power Radio community at Higher, that's Hire, Power, Power, radio, radio.com, or you can drop me an email at rick@stridesearch.com. Tune in next week. Our guest is going to be David DeFrancis. He is the CEO of IT Proactive. I'm your host, Rick Gerard, and you have been listening to the Higher Power Radio Show. Aloha.
Thank you for listening to Higher Power Radio. Catch our LinkedIn Live show every Tuesday at noon or download the podcast on iHeartRadio, iTunes, YouTube, or your favorite podcast platform. We appreciate you joining us on Higher Power Radio with your guide to recruitment success, Rick Gerard.